Petr Magyar says that he suspects the Druzhba pipeline will resume operations likely next week. The EU foreign policy chief said yesterday that the EU will advance its 20th sanction package against Russia. Zelensky says today that he believes that Russia will likely once again involve Belarus in the war in Ukraine. And the former president of Russia, Medvedev, talks about the fact that European facilities helping Ukraine with drone production should be taken seriously as real targets for the Russian military. I'm Sophia Marie, a graduate of Georgetown and Oxford. Let's get into news of the region. Okay, so first news today, obviously Petr Magyar, the leader of the TISA party, which won parliamentary elections last Sunday, who overturned Orban's 16 years of rule. He came out and said that the oil flows through the Druzhba pipeline will likely resume next week. Now, obviously, this has been a major source of contention between Ukraine and Hungary and Slovakia, who have continued to import Russian energy, and there were lots of personal attacks between Orban and Zelensky in particular. Now, also in connection with this, the EU foreign policy chief said yesterday that the EU will advance its 20th sanction package against Russia. Now, Slovakia has said that it will block this 20th sanction package against Russia unless the Druzhba pipeline becomes operational again. So the Slovak foreign minister said in a statement, quote, "If the Druzhba pipeline is not operational and the approval of the 20th package is on the table, we will not approve it because we have no other tools than to force Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, together with the European Commission, to launch the Druzhba pipeline." Now, when I'm reading these articles, apparently the EU foreign policy chief is wanting to advance things that Orban had previously rejected to or blocked, seeing if Slovakia, as the sole kind of problem child, will continue blocking this stuff even without Hungarian support potentially. Okay, so Zelensky said today on Friday that he believes that Russia will likely once again involve Belarus in the war in Ukraine. On a post to social media on X, he said in an update that, quote, "According to intelligence, the construction of roads towards Ukrainian territory and the development of artillery positions are underway in the Belarusian border areas. We believe that Russia may once again attempt to drag Belarus into its war. I have instructed that appropriate channels be used to warn the de facto leadership of Belarus about Ukraine's readiness to defend its land and independence." Now, in other news, there's some interesting news from the Kyiv Independent today. Apparently, as of April 12th, since the start of the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine beginning late February of 2022, there have been 620 attacks against enlistment officers in Ukraine. And these attacks on enlistment officers have apparently intensified in the recent months, while there has been ongoing strain on the system of mobilization and also tensions around conscriptions. Now, as the Kyiv Independent lays out, Ukrainian men between the ages of 25 to 60 are eligible for the draft. Now, lastly, the former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, on April 15th posted this quite escalatory statement talking about how European facilities which are helping Ukraine with drone production should be taken seriously as real targets for the Russian military. So earlier that day, the Russian Foreign Ministry on April 15th published a list of companies it claimed are helping Ukraine produce drones for the war. The Russian Foreign Ministry said that this cooperation between European facilities and Ukraine are, quote, "dragging these countries," referencing European countries, "faster into a war with Russia, and that this will have, quote, "unpredictable consequences." So later in the day, former President Medvedev, who was president of Russia between 2008 to 2012, and he was kind of seen at the time as potentially being able to be more moderate Russian president, and potentially would increase relations, better relations between Russia and the West, but that's gone way out of the window, and he's been quite chaotic and gone quite psycho on social media ever since the beginning of this war. So later in the day, after the Russian Foreign Ministry published that list of companies, he said, quote, "Russian Defense Ministry's statement must be taken literally. The list of European facilities which make drones and other equipment is a list of potential targets for the Russian armed forces. When strikes become a reality, depends on what comes next. Sleep well, European partners." That's it for news today. Make sure to like and follow. I'm Sophia Marie. I post these updates of the former Soviet space and East European region every single day.